Hey guys, this is Dave Sebastian coming to you live from old Shirley Town once again. We are in the home studio, my home studio. Today we are bringing you the virtual TAG program. TAG stands for The Art Group, which is what I call my road programs. Since we're already doing virtual open studios on Wednesdays and Fridays, on Tuesdays and Thursdays here on YouTube, we're going to be doing YouTube Live. Looks like it'll be about 2 to 4 ish, depending on how long it takes us to do the project. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my programs. I work with Wayside Youth and Family, which is a human service agency out of Framingham. We work with a number of young adults, but I personally work with young adults 16 to 26 throughout the Central Mass region. Every week I do 2 resident programs, which are the programs that are run in my studio in Tempo Young Adult Resource Center, which is at 68 Henry Street in Framingham. On Wednesdays and Fridays, we're there from 10:30 to 3 running an open studio program. That's, of course, when we're allowed to be there. So today we're not. So we're out here doing something different to at least hopefully motivate you guys to be interested in doing some artwork, or at least just watch me. Today we're going to be talking about some collages that I've created and some frames, some custom-made frames that we have going together. We're working with 4 frames, and then we'll paint one. So it's basically just a little bit of framing. I'm using hot glue in this process. And that's mostly pretty much it. So I want to tell you a little bit more about my stuff. Like my work is funded by a partnership with the Department of Mental Health. I've been doing this work for about 7 years, and I have a really great time doing it. Like mostly I'm working in when I'm not in the studio in Framingham, I'm working all around the Central Mass region, in every type of program and school and anywhere young adults happen to be. So that's kind of what's going on with my programs. Today, I am coming to you from my home studio in Shirley, as I said. You'll see behind me is a number of artworks. These are all collages that I created using comics. Hold on one second. That I created using comics in an effort to expose young adults to a different type of artwork that might have been a little bit out of their comfort zone. Many of the young adults I work with are very familiar with manga and anime, and this is the artwork that they look at often in relation to comics. This work is completely brilliant, especially the work of Junji Ito, who is probably one of my favorite artists in the world. But not a lot of them had taken a moment to look at American comics and superhero comics. Now, I know superheroes are hyper represented in the movies these days, but there's way more comic storytelling going on than what's made it into the movies, obviously. So I'm interested in trying to show young adults the artwork that I looked at growing up, and that it really influenced my work and that influenced my sensibility towards art, my approach, my style, everything, about me as an artist really came a lot from comics. One of my first jobs was working in a comic shop. One of my intentions when I went to college was to try to work in the comics industry. All the way around, a big, big influence on my life. So, you have to give back a little, right? And so I started suggesting to young adults that they should look at comics, and I got pushback. I got some young adults that were not interested in that, and that felt like it was too much of a commitment, or it was too linear, there was too many words, too many concepts, I suppose. Like I got a good amount of pushback, which I found to be relatively amusing, especially because I couldn't get enough comics growing up. It was really what I was all about. So we're going to talk a little bit about my work and why I'm doing it this, what we're doing, why we're doing it. So, excuse me, having a little trouble with this machine here, giving me some trouble. All right. What do you guys think? I mean, like here, I'm out here. Sorry, you guys, but I hate being distracted. You know how that goes. Oh, it's just completely silly. That's the deal. All right, 1 second, you guys. 1 sec. All right. All right, back to work. Cool. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about is some collages. So let's take a look at our first one. Let me see if I can get in a little close for you guys so you can see it. All right, there we go. So here's the first collage we're looking at. This is a collage by R. Crumb, who's one of the geniuses that brought us underground comics. I love his work, but I would never cut it up, which is one of the contradictions that I often run into. You know what I'm saying? So this piece right here is by R. Crumb. It's out of Zap number 0. This character here is Mr. Natural, who is sort of like an underground icon. In this particular story, he's annoyed with a guy because he owes him $38.50. So he decides to kick him and then walk away. This bottom corner here, which has the energy guys, is just something that amuses me about R. Crumb. So this piece I made on a 4x4 panel. 4x4 artist panel by forgot the name of the company. It'll remember Amistad. Ampersand, Jesus, you know what I'm saying. An ampersand board 4x4. That's a masonite board coated in a mixture of gesso and ceramic, and then baked. This for me gives me a great working surface to glue to. It's a hard surface, so you can really push with the brayer. A really great surface. I started out doing this work on Canson plein air illustration boards. They're awesome, but they're paper, so there's some limitations there. I still use them for painting and a number of other things. But right now I'm using mostly this ampersand board. I really like it a lot. I think that it's very, very good. There we go. You guys see that okay? So hard to know where the camera is. All right, so the deal with the frame is this is a custom-made frame made of reclaimed barn wood by a guy named Todd Tabor that I found on Etsy. Really great guy. I'll put the link to his Etsy store in the comments. So really just really all I feel like the pieces needed. I've done, I think this particular one is about 75. 75 collages from any number of different books is a huge commitment. But it's ongoing. Like I found once I started getting into it that it was really, there was just a real lot to do. Like you could work with almost anything. But one of my rules as a comic collector and reader is that I couldn't cut up a book that was complete and good shape and that kind of stuff. And then fate happened to intervene, and some mice got into my comic collection. A number of books were destroyed just from them chewing on the top of them. I couldn't save quite a few books, and they were really a mixture of different types of books. So I decided I would start with those. And then once I got through a lot of those, I moved to flea markets and yard sales, and nothing I paid more than $1 for could be used in the project, because it's for me it's important to respect comics. I want to share them, but I only want to share them if they're damaged. And then a number of the other things that I wanted to use, for example, early Kirby Fantastic Four and stuff like that, were pieces that I found in reprints. Also true with a lot of the early Spideys. I love Ditko, Steve Ditko, and you can't obviously begin to buy Ditko originals, and obviously you wouldn't cut them up. But reprints, there's nearly an endless supply of Spidey reprints. So I've done several Spideys. Cool. Interestingly enough, they've sold for me. I do a lot of comic book shows and conventions when we're allowed to go outside, and I will be back doing that before too long, I hope. I hope everyone out there is safe. So this is the first piece that we're going to talk about. This one is finished. I used hot glue to stick it together. The next one that we're going to do is there we go. Right. So the next one we're going to do is this smaller frame. This one is a 4x6, and for this one, Yikes. The artwork we made for this is this scratch board. I don't know if you guys have seen Scratchboard or anything like that. This is a card I found on the street. It actually happens to be the card they give you when you leave Atlantic City. And I had a nice time working on it. It's cool to work on something that's symmetrical. This particular board has gone through some stuff, so you can see it's kind of dog-eared around the edges. I'm kind of okay with that. It's the life that this particular piece has lived. I'm going to be doing Scratchboard tomorrow on Facebook Live, if anybody's interested. It's the Greenhouse Graphics Facebook page. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put some hot glue in here and glue this piece down. We're going to knock out gluing a few of these other pieces just so we can go through the process of gluing them down. Then we're going to get into a little bit of my collage process, and beginning work on a collage itself. So we're using the hot glue gun. And we got to get it real hot. You want to make sure it's on high. I leave it for at least 10 or 15 minutes. If you don't, I've had a lot of problems with hot glue guns because they just don't get hot enough for me, or I don't wait long enough because I'm fairly impatient. So just make sure you leave it as long as you can. This guy's been on at least a half an hour. My daughter Molly and I were doing some gluing earlier, the test to find out if it's going to work. I've been using double stick tape applicators. And this isn't bad with paper, works really good, and it's very, very small to fit in this tiny area here. But what I've been noticing is that after a while, the integrity of the tape starts to go, which isn't a huge big deal if it happens to one. But there's 75 here. So if that starts to happen, not all of them are in drop-in frames. Man, I'm exhausted, apparently. Not all of them are in drop-in frames. The frames I have custom from Todd, I only started getting probably about maybe 6 months ago. I think I've gotten around maybe 15 or 20 frames from him. He's done an amazing job. Really, really cool guy. That's because many of the pieces I was making were flat, like this one. This is a 1/3 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, whatever, like a really thin, regular, flat piece of board. Scratchboard is very similar to the surface I was talking about, the artist board by Ampersand. They make the Scratchboard as well, and the Scratchboard is also a masonite board with ceramic coating. In this case, the ceramic is black instead of white. But first they coat it in white, and then they coat it in black. So you can scratching away the black, shows you the white, and allows you to draw in a deductive way instead of an inductive way. So I like it. I have a really good time with it. I haven't done enough of it lately. So all we're going to do is glue this guy in here. Get the glue going. You know how it is with glue gun. You got to kind of pump it. And you know, one thing that's important is you want to kind of do this quick because the glue does dry pretty quick. Right. Get a real good bead. And you know, you can sort of wobble a little because we really want to get some coverage, you know, like more than just the very edge. Especially with this piece because it's a little bigger than some of my other pieces. Many of my other ones fit just exactly into the frame. This one, there's a little bit of play in it, you know. So then you just take your artwork, you know, being careful, and you slide it in one side and drop it in. And then you have just a few seconds to get it right where you want it. And like I said, this one is real close to the size of the frame. There we go. All right, so now we got it stuck in there pretty good. All right. So now we got to put some weight on it to give us as much glue, the impact as possible. You know, we want to get the two surfaces to fit together. Need something a little bit heavier. Where's a brick when you need one? There we go. All right, this is a large bottle of airbrush cleaner. So that's kind of what we're going to do. You know, we're going to you know, we're just going to be gluing a couple of these pieces, and then I can talk to you about them, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Oops. Don't knock your hot glue gun over. Set this aside so it can dry. Set the hot glue gun back up. Always have a lot of backup sticks. Nothing's worse than running out in the middle. Next one we're going to do is a little bit bigger, obviously. So this piece is a Harry Potter collage made using the chapter titles and the covers from the Harry Potter books, specifically, obviously, the Order of the Phoenix. I found this cover to be the most interesting. So I took all of the chapter headings from that book and everywhere that I thought had a reference that I liked in text. Excuse me. The book, if you've read it, and I'm sure everyone has any number of references to the High Inquisitor of Hogwarts. So I put that in twice. This Weasley's King is fairly amusing. So this was how I made this. Now this one is a little bit different. This one is on a different company. Different company. This one is made by Dick Blick, which is my art supply store. And they make their own artist panels, and they make flat ones, but this particular one I wanted to hang using these holes in the back, but I just didn't dig the way it kind of looks, you know, like it just didn't feel like it had the edge didn't read good enough for me. I often wrap the edges, but this small of an edge, it wasn't going to be possible to wrap them. So I decided I would want to frame it. So this is one of maybe the largest frame that I've had Todd make for me. Oops. And I think that makes a really huge difference. Now the only problem is that third of an inch is adds a lot of weight, right? So a lot of weight to the piece makes it harder for the glue to be effective. I don't believe hot glue has a weight rating on it. We're kind of stuck with whatever luck kind of brings us, right? So we're gonna pop this guy out. This is kind of an experiment, I guess, because I'm not 100% sure it's gonna work. So, we're gonna give it a shot. Want to make sure I have another stick ready to go. The stick I'm using is very nearly out. And we're going to do quite a bit of gluing here. And again, we have to work fast, right? Because this glue dries really quick. Filling this guy up with like the ocean. A little ripple action. Make sure you get your corners good. Alright. Running low on glue here. I like to just put the next glue in so that we're ready. And then we run out. Never be afraid to move your work. Nothing's more of a pain than trying to reach over somewhere just because you haven't turned your work. I've been known to use a Marley stick, which is a way to get over to a part of your artwork that you can't reach without leaning on it. They work really well. I like them. So as I said, keep turning your artwork so that you can home stretch, one side to go. This is like, anybody remember the old Kung Fu magazines when we were a kid, like Ninja? They had a exercise device called the Eagle's Claw. You'd stick your hand in it and it was springed and it would help exercise your fingers for whatever Kung Fu application that would be. This really works your fingers. Pumping the hot glue gun. So now we want to drop her in. Try to get right in there on the glue, right where we want it the first time. So now the same deal with this guy. We got to get a lot of pressure on it so that it'll dry. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure that this glue is going to be strong enough for this piece of artwork, because like I said, the artwork is heavy. If it doesn't work out, we make something new that fits in this size frame. Not a big thing. Gotta move a couple of things here. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna keep these guys right over here and move on to our next one. Oops. There we go. Right over here by our hot glue gun. Alright, cool. So the next one we're doing is kind of a good sized one also. This one, I can't actually remember how big it is. Let's take a look. This guy is about 12 and a half by about 6.5. So we'll call that 6 by 12. The artwork we're going to place in it is this one, I believe. Yes. This one is called Casey at Bat. This is the old baseball rhyme or poem. I don't know when exactly it's from. I think it's fairly old. This is from Mad Magazine and drawn by the great Jack Davis. I think one of the greatest illustrators between the 40s and the 70s. When I was a kid, he did all the TV guide covers. This presentation of baseball was just brilliant, and I really loved looking at it. And I found that this seemed to be something that I could, move into this type of style. This was a 4-page story in Mad, and I decided to try to make it into one. I feel like it tells the story pretty good. I tried to keep it as ordered and linear as I could, and that's what we were trying to do. So we're just going to do the same thing we've been working on. You guys check it out a little closer just for fun, so you can see what we're talking about. Like I said, this is Jack Davis. If you are interested, you should check out Jack, because he's done really a huge amount of brilliant work. I mean, he's really famous for Mad, but he's done a whole bunch of stuff. When I was a kid, he had done a 6-foot-tall Godzilla, a Frankenstein drawing. That was the poster that every single person that I knew that was interested in comics wanted. So I remember him forever for that. But also any number of other stuff that he had done. He just did a real lot of really great stuff. Mostly Mad and comedy type stuff, or cartoon type stuff. But still really, really brilliant. So you guys should absolutely check him out. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing we did. This guy is also on the Amistad. This one's called Gesso board. Same thing, ceramic mixed with gesso, coated on masonite. This one's extremely thin, maybe a 1/8 of an inch or something. Gonna do basically the same deal. Get in here and pump our hot glue gun. Do a little wave action. Back to my finger workout. The eagle's claw. Alright. Keep turning it so you can really see what you're doing. The worst is to not be able to see. A little more light over here. Just ordered a high-powered LED light that I'm hoping will be make a big difference in my space here. And a little low on glue, like I was saying. Oh. Throw another stick in. Go. Like I said, you want to try to make sure that you get a good amount of coverage in your first pass, because these guys dry this stuff dries pretty quick. So we want to make sure as much as we can that if there's any placement, the last two I did, I kind of screwed up the placement. All right. Unlike the what I use to glue the collages together, which is Mod Podge. I used Mod Podge for a number of them, and now I use gel medium. is extremely forgiving. You know, like once you glue it down, you can move that paper around a pretty good amount until it begins to dry, which is a couple of minutes. You know, which is a really great part of it. And then it has you a little, you know, what I think of as like wiggle room. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this guy out. Check out our first one. Oh, that didn't work at all. So we're gonna try something different on that first one. Oops. Try to put some weight on that one, and we'll do this one again. Maybe this time. I think it's because when I put it down, I moved it. Best to try not to move it. Although I had tried this before, and I had areas that it just wouldn't work on. You know, so I wound up using double stick tape, which is a Papermate product, and actually worked out really well. Did a lot of the job pretty well. So this time we want to try to make sure we get it right where we want it in the first drop. And then get it over here and get the weight on it. Put under it. All right, let's see how that goes. Next one we're working with is this one. Whoops. Just a little tiny spot in the corner. I use carbon black golden high flow acrylics to paint the frame. They're real good opaque black. They get the job done. They're flat. I like that about it. If you take a look right here in this corner, you can see there's a little spot that I missed the black in. I've gone around and repainted these pieces, these frames, a few times because that's the point. You want them to be really, really black. Sometimes I wish I didn't have dogs because there's always dog hair on the frames. All right, there we go. So this piece that we're working on this time, there we go, is a new thing, a new sort of series that I'm working on, which is kids books. This was a book by Carl Anderson called Henry. This is a story about a kid daydreaming about going to Lollipop Land, which is fine. The book was about 15 pages, double-sided, which I did cut back a huge amount, but this stuff here I felt like told the story just enough to give you to give my viewers the impression of what was going on in the story. It's a little bit strange, like he meets some lollipop people. They talk to him about how lollipops are made, and then he eats them. I don't know if somebody came over to my place and hung out with me for a while and then decided to eat me. I think we might have a problem. We might disagree. So anyway, this piece I believe is 9 by 12. It is also on the gesso board, the ampersand gesso board. Again, like you see that it doesn't even bend, which is really great when using the brayer on it. I'm hoping our hot glue is working under our press because otherwise this will be a relatively short process as we try to figure out another solution. Other solution I said I have is double stick tape. All right. I think maybe I should put like a little more. All right. Grab another stick. quickly. Ah, it's very hot. Hot glue gun. I think that's the job, but the job is unpleasant. But yeah. Alright. Getting there. Kind of go slow is the way to go. Here's my Molly, come to help out. What's up, Molly? You come to help? What happened to your finger?
I burned it.
Yikes. Oh yeah, you gotta be careful because you can easily burn yourself doing this work here. Alright, so everybody out there, be careful. Okay? Alright, I gotta get this thing here. Alright, so as we were saying, we gotta make sure we do this kind of quick. Since I'm screwing around, that would not be quick. I'm going to try to get it right where you want it to go the first time. We're going to put this one over on that one. Once we get a little bit of press into it. I don't know if it's going to work, Mom. We're trying. We're trying something. Alright, so we take off our giant jug. Our top piece. We should put something between those two. For some reason I have honestly nothing I can put in between anything. You'd think us artists are supposed to have lots of pieces of paper around.
Yeah.
But they pretty rarely do, actually. We'll put this in here. All of us have a lot of masks around the house now. It's like the new fashion item. The new fashion item of the summer. That actually doesn't really work so good. Excuse me, huh? That's when we're going to have to find something else that's heavy. Can you give me that bottle over there? Actually, give me one of your bottles. Big ones. This time we're going to use a giant bottle of glue. Is there any heavier ones? How about the red one? Need a really heavy thing.
Why don't you just use the whole thing?
Too big. Probably weigh the same. Anyone full? Anyone really full? Hold on, just one sec, folks.
This one I feel like is really full.
They're kind of the same. It's fine. Alright, so get something heavy on there. Like I said, doesn't have to be crazy, but the heavier the better. Alright. Throw that back over there. Thank you. Take my water, man. Oh, I gotcha. You can do that. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show you guys does not involve the hot glue gun. So we're going to take out the hot glue gun because a pretty good chance I'm going to burn myself with it. In fact, I honestly can't believe I haven't burned myself with it yet. Unfortunately, my Molly was not as lucky. She has already burned herself with it. It's no good. She's doing the E.T. impression. E.T. phone home. All right. Got something to say, Mo?
No.
Here's Mo. Camera's over there. All right, get out of here, you. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you guys is a little bit different, right? Need just one thing real quick. That is, of course, moving my camera. There we go. Hey.
Love you, Daddy.
You too, hon. Thanks for being a part of it. Okay. All right. So here we have a copy of Watchmen. Anybody out there know what Watchmen is? I'm pretty sure you do. Watchmen is an incredibly iconic comic that came out in the 80s. It says here September 1986. That was a long damn time ago, but that was right in the middle of when I was working in comic shops. In fact, both Watchmen and Dark Knight came out right around the same time, which is two of the most iconic comics of all time. Coming out at once is really interesting. So this book is written by Alan Moore, one of the most brilliant comic writers of all time, and drawn by Dave Gibbons. Dave Gibbons is an incredibly talented guy. The only complaint I've ever had with him is his style is extremely journalistic. It is not like flashy like Todd McFarlane. It's a different type of artwork. So I'm gonna do a collage with this character here. His name is Rorschach. He's a basically fairly dark type of character. In fact, Watchmen is a fairly dark book. This piece right here is what motivated me to do the collage. Like I said, I find him to be a very Batman type of character, but different in his own way. Kind of fairly dark. Which Batman is too. But this particular character is extremely dark. So I wanted to show you guys how I take a book apart. We're not going to have time to do my collage of Watchmen because it takes me a significant amount of time to lay out large size pieces. How I do it is I take all of the work, I collage it into what I think it should look like, and then I work from that. So this one would be like, this is the initial stage where it's disassembling the book and selecting pages that I would like to use before getting into a direct cut. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to swap over to a collage that's already cut, so we can go through some of the process of laying a collage out. All right, so like I said, this is Watchmen. This is a reprint of the book that was put out probably around 2009. First thing I do with a comic when I'm going to collage with it, how's that? Good. All right. Is you want to go to the center of the book. Now you can look at the side and see where the center of the book is. Why do you want to go to the center of the book? Because that's where the staples are. And we need the first thing we got to do is get into the middle of the book and find the staples, which is usually just a little bit easier than it is just now. Now, since we're taking the book apart anyway, it doesn't really matter that much if we damage it in any way. I try not to mess with the book too much, only because you never know what panel you're going to wind up using or what panel you think is going to help with some different ones. I don't know if anyone noticed with the other pieces, but you can see, let's see if I can grab one. That one's a little too big. Well, I'll show you guys this one. So working with this piece here is, let's see, we'll swap over. So this piece right here is made from, it's about Adam Strange. It's made by Paul Pope. And this is an extremely large collage, 18 by 24. Working with, I think it was nine issues of a book called Sunday Funnies. It was put out by DC probably back in 2000 or something like that. Sort of like to pay homage to Sunday comics, and getting different folks to work on to work on an unlikely character they hadn't worked on. Done quite a few collages out of those books. Let's not get distracted. What I wanted to say, is sometimes you need little pieces to fill in around the edges of the story that you're trying to tell, and I am 100% trying to tell a story about the character. Now, Watchmen has many stories going on at once, and Rorschach is only one of them. So my intention is to try to take Rorschach out of character, out of context, and place him in the story that I want to tell. Now, the story is going to be what Alan Moore wanted to tell ultimately, just cutting out some of the side stories and the complementary text and stuff. That's a significant thing too. I don't use text. One of the things the kids mentioned is there was a lot of reading in comics. My artwork is not about reading. I think writers who write comics are absolutely brilliant, and of course the artists in most cases couldn't do their work without the writer creating these things. Excuse me. The king of the perpetual yawn, apparently. Right, so that's kind of what we're going to do with Rorschach. So 3 feet out, going a little. All right, so like I said, we're going to start with the staples. Sorry guys, just trying to get it just in a good spot so you guys can see what we're doing. What I am working with is a Fisker's, crying out loud. You know, we artists are notoriously messy. I fall dead center in that category 100%. So I'm working with a Fisker's matte knife. The reason I use this one is because of this large silicone handle on it. The only thing with collage making, obviously, if I'm going to complain about something, it'll be that your finger eventually gets a little sore. My collages tend to go quickly. I don't have a serious problem with that, but it's slightly more comfortable than your average X-Acto, and I just kind of dig it. You know, like I like what happens with it. You know, it used to be when I was a kid, X-Acto was it was the only game in town. If you didn't use X-Acto, you weren't cutting things. So now it's a lot different. I do use a new blade each time, except for this part right here. Clearly getting old makes you yawn all the time. So this I used on my last collage. So we're going to throw it away. It's best to use the sharpest possible blade you can. You'll find really quick that if you're using a slightly dull blade, that it's going to affect your cuts. You know, like so I use this to kind of get up under the staple. You don't want to use the very tip of your blade because it'll break. So you just want to get it up enough that you can use a different tool on it. The tool I like to use is of course not totally readily available to me. This is a tool I've used a lot. This is a scratcher for scratchboard. Being wood, it's pretty tough. So you can get the staples to move up, right? And once you get them up, you just square them up towards the top and open them up all the way, right? Same with this one. All right. Once you have the staples up, clearly the next step would be to remove them. I find if you give them a little push from this side, it makes it easier to grab them over here. As I said, you know, you want to try to take it easy. You know, like you don't want to destroy the book in the process of taking the staples out or in making the collage. You know, you want to make sure you preserve all of the available artwork in there for the purpose of being able to use it if you find you need to. So this is the old blade. Like I said, you want a new blade every time. In here, I believe this is 100 pack of blades. They aren't Fisker blades. Fisker blades cost really a small amount more. Best to not cut yourself while doing this. Want to make sure that you get your cutter lined up with this part, because if you don't, you're just going to wind up having to turn it over, and it's not going to help you. I loosen the end of this guy as much as I can so that the slot is pretty obvious. Maybe even a little more. All right. Once you got it in there, like I said, you want to make sure it's under the pressure side of the blade or your finger side. Just take a look. Looks pretty good. Have some other kind of interesting razors. This guy here is also a Fisker blade. This is made for your finger so that you can do like tight, like curve type cuts with that. Really like just detail cuts. Also, we just mentioned it hurting your finger to use this eventually. This winds up using a different part, of your finger. You're still doing this, but it isn't this all is the pressure. So, it's kind of, it helps a little bit. So now that we have the book basically like opened up, careful with your razors, especially if you've already cut yourself. Okay, so the first thing, one of the things that made me want to do it, as I showed you guys, was that picture of Rorschach. This is kind of nice, right? Double ads for this Watchman reprint. Very cool. Everybody should get it. This is the slipcase one, and this is the softcover edition. Clearly, they paid to produce. Look, here's even another one. They clearly paid to reproduce this book. So one of the things I really liked about this reprint was the fact that this cover is printed in yellow. First Watchman cover isn't printed in yellow. So kind of cool, right? The ads, I don't so much need. Like I said, save pieces that you might be able to use, but keep in mind that a lot of this book is going to get thrown away. So don't save things you don't need. For a long time, I saved all the offcuts from all the books I've done, all the collages I've done, and you'll wind up with things like this all over your desk, like just pieces of collages you've already done, and this thought in your head, which is, I can't throw away the artwork by that guy that I've always liked, because of course I picked the guy to do the collage because I already like his artwork. So we know that you like it, right? So, all right. Some more of our weights over here. Pretty much frivolous putting weights on the collages, because if they're going to stick, they'd have stuck by now. I don't know if they're going to work or not. It was an experiment. So this is one of the pieces we're going to use. We're going to take out, obviously, the DC logo, and probably, in fact, all of this information that says representing, because no one cares that it's a reprint in a collage. And for me, that's the intention. But for anyone else, I'd rather they didn't know it was a reprint. So they think that, I'm really rich, and I'm using original Watchman artwork. Anybody would know, obviously, that it's not original Watchman artwork due to the fact that, like I said, it's yellow. Doesn't mean it's not cool. Doesn't mean I'm not going to use it. In fact, I think this picture of Rorschach right here is going to be really significant to the piece. But we needed it to not have logos and text and that kind of stuff. I am going to use probably the word Watchman right here. There we go. But not this representing. We want to get rid of that. If anyone is interested in some of the collages, the ones we just looked at today are new, but I've made a little more than 75, and they're all on my Instagram. My Instagram is called David, sorry, at Toast20 and the number 3. And you can see all my work there. Or you can go to Greenhouse Graphics on Instagram, and I have some videos that I've produced there. There's also a significant amount of still work there. Also on our Facebook page. You guys should come out, check them out. You know what I mean? You can do it at any time, you know. So this right here, which is the names of the writers and the artists, I will keep just in case. Nice shiny version of it. So here in this middle page we have a little Rorschach, but what we're going to do is we're going to flip the collage over, we're going to flip the book over. I'm going to take this cover. This was exactly how the original book looked. In fact, I would guess this is an exact reprint, obviously. So this cover right here is issue 1, right? Now, do we use it? I'm not sure. You know, I'm really not sure. Should I throw it away? That seems like, do I need it? That seems like probably a no. But we're going to go through here and separate out the 2 pieces. The clock is really significant in the Watchmen story. And obviously, if anyone hasn't read the Watchmen story, please allow this to be a motivator to you doing that. Because reading it, it's an exceptionally good comic. One of the best comics ever written. You know? Alan Moore is one of the greatest geniuses of the industry. He revolutionized the monster comic with Swamp Thing. He revolutionized the hero comic with Miracle Man. He revolutionized the horror comic with Swamp Thing. He's just done so much great stuff, and then he's invented an impossible universe of complicated interactions with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Working with Kevin O'Neill on that book was such a brilliant pairing. He was the perfect artist to work on it. Alan Moore, good guy. So we have taken the cover off, and so as I said, we keep going through the very first page. That's the first 2 pages. I feel like this was one of the first comics printed like this, which I think is a digital print, because the colors are much more saturated than they were in the book when I remember reading it. I easily could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm thinking. This first page doesn't give us a lot to work with. You know, what are we going to use? This here is the beginning of a story of the crime that Rorschach is investigating. It's possible I could use some of that. Obviously, this page of text I don't need. Great landmark for cutting your book is the staple holes. That really helps. Now, this is a story, a novel that one of the characters was writing. Not going to use any text. This piece here is probably the one I'll use the most, which is kind of this downward shot. This one here, there we go, doesn't have a lot. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot. Maybe this piece right there, and this takes it away. So, not sure. We'll leave it up like this. Right now, all I'm doing is collecting pieces I'm going to use and taking out pieces that I'm not going to use. All right, so we keep going through the book backwards. We have another page. The book is by Hollis Mason, who is the Night Owl character in The Watchmen. Watchmen is about a group of heroes called the Minutemen. There's a number of them. So again, we're not going to use the text pages. Now this page right here, this scene, is where the character gets thrown out the window and what the what the story is ultimately about is this crime. So the red panels tell the story of the crime. So looking at this page here doesn't do much for us. There is this scene, but it doesn't seem to do much. So we'll be sticking with this page because it has, like I said, a lot of the crime. Move right on to the next one. Oh. Sometimes there's a little bit of glue between the pages. Very easy to screw it up. So, best thing to do is bring your blade right down the middle. There you go. And now we've got a couple pieces opened up. So now, as I said, this panel right here is the panel that I'm doing the collage for, right? This is the center. This is the action panel, the kickoff, whatever you want to call it. This whole page of anybody want to be seasick? This whole page of movement of the Rorschach character is really indicative of how the character moves and what the character's story is about. This side has a very different feeling to it due to the higher resolution colors and the brightness of those colors. This side tells some stuff, like this panel right here where he's picking up the smiley face is a significant panel, but when you look at this side, that side is what we're going to use. Cutting it through here so we could take a look if we can use this lower stuff, I don't think we'll be able to. So now that we had to cut that in half, we have this piece, which is a few pages. Let's see that. Always be really careful. Sometimes I offhand grab a page that's a little stuck like that one was, and tear it off, and it tears the page in half. Now collaging, you can of course repair any damage to a page, but that doesn't mean you want to. You want to try to stay ahead of that curve as much as you can. So in here we have one good panel of Rorschach's face. This side we have a little bit of them in the working process. I think we could probably use this one. Maybe. Sometimes I put it under the frame, under the light. Like this, so that you can see through it. Right? And see what panel ends where. Oh yeah, definitely going to get to use both of those. That's good because they're part of the character development. Like they're part of what's happening here. Keep our light on there. So this one's kind of tough, like which side, what do you leave up? Good thing is the bulk of this book is 9 panels. So if we cut this 9 panel piece off right here, this 3, 6, 9, we know we're going to try to use this panel of him opening the closet, and we know we're going to use this panel. How you show surprise on a guy without a face, I don't know, but 100% that looks like surprise, right? All right, so see, we were able to use this other picture of Rorschach. All right, and then we got a little bit here. Not a lot, maybe this one. So we'll leave that in there just in case we decide to use that. This piece is actually like totally cut for us, so we'll leave that. So this is, you want to just keep moving through your book, whatever book you choose. Again, we have this full page of text. The text in the story is he's writing a novel about the time, the Minutemen and his experiences. This is extremely interesting and cool, and the fact that Alan Moore thought he should also write a novel in addition to writing a 12-issue comic Try to back off, buddy. Some of the rest of us are trying to do work. That page didn't have anything for us. So, we're stuck. This panel here, really powerful Rorschach panel. So as you get into the book, it's been folded on the staple line. So if you're very careful, you can separate the book out right through the middle without using the razor. Now this back here is all about the character Dr. Manhattan. We're not doing a piece about Dr. Manhattan, we're doing a piece about Rorschach. So this back here is a really, really great Rorschach page. The color of it, the repetitive nature, the rain, it's very noir. It's very interesting that there's a big superhero story going on in Watchmen, yet there's also a film noir detective story going on with Rorschach. Watchmen has 100%, maybe my favorite comic line of all time, which is, what are you going to do? Well, Rorschach gets caught by the police and they put him in jail. I can't remember which issue of Watchmen that it's in. And he's put a lot of guys in jail, like Spider-Man. And one of the guys comes up to him and says, how do you feel about being stuck in here with us? And Rorschach beats the crap out of him and says, I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me. Really great classic Rorschach line. If you guys wind up reading Watchmen, you'll get it. Tough guy, bad guy. So same thing we were talking. He's not a bad guy. He's a good guy, but he's also a little bit of a scary good guy. Vigilante. All right. So then we start with this guy, and we take a look at it. There's a couple of the Dr. Manhattan gets angry with Rorschach and teleports him out of the room. These few panels of him are okay, but they don't really say much about him. We're going to keep it in the pile of possible uses because there is quite a few drawings of him here. 6 panels about Rorschach, so having the panels is good. So then we're over here. This particular panel right here, this one, where Rorschach is eating beans with his mask pulled up. I don't know why, but that particular panel means a real lot about that character. And then again, here is this smiley face, which is really integral to the whole story. Now this side has an interesting Rorschach thing. So his mask is kind of like an oily sticker. There's fluid inside of it that's changing all the time. So his mask is different all the time. Now this is pink, purple or something, but it's definitely Rorschach stuff. So we're going to use that. Oh, another one that the pages are stuck together. This is probably a combination of glue and age. Same thing I just said to you guys a minute ago. Be careful, because if you rip too fast, you can peel right up the side of the comic and across panels. Alright, so now we have 2 pages that are easier to separate. So let's start with this one. So again, some really classic Rorschach panels here. We got this one where he's doing definitely the Batman Spidey kind of thing. And this panel here where he comes into a bar filled with tough guys. Let's take a look at the other side. The other side is about Hollis Mason, the Night Owl. This is his costume. Rorschach is going around telling all of the Minutemen that someone is after them, after the character at the beginning is the comedian, is murdered. So clearly this side is what we need for Rorschach. Here we have another Rorschach heavy panel. Really the first issue is kind of all about Rorschach. And we have these 3 panels where he threatens where he really just speaks to the bartender and scares him so bad that he's crying. And here he is walking up behind a character who is a little surprised. This side has a lot that we could use, really a lot. On the back here, we have a couple of panels that we could use up here. maybe these panels down here. But initially, I think it's going to really be all about this side. So we're on our last couple of pages here. This page here is all about Adrian Voigt, who is the smartest man in the world. Very little to do with Rorschach. He is here, but not much. And then here, where he has his hat off, is something. But I don't feel like there's anything on there that we can use. Last panel that we're looking at is this. Dr. Rorschach breaks into a government lab to warn Dr. Manhattan that someone's trying to kill him. A great line where he says, "How do you tell the indestructible man that someone's trying to kill him?" This character is Dr. Manhattan. I apologize for the nudity. Again, a great panel, and this is Rorschach right here, but not super relevant. So I think that this one we will place here just for the sake of that top one. So guys, that's about all I have time for today. That's the collage beginning process. What we're going to do on tomorrow's Facebook Live, which is on the Greenhouse Graphics website, Facebook page, excuse me, is we will continue the collage process. What I'm going to do is take that work that we just did and work a little bit on this collage here, which is another Mad Magazine one. This is all pre-cut to ease the process, so I can show you guys a little bit quicker than how long it takes me to cut all these pieces up. So we will just glue and collage that tomorrow. So if you guys are interested, it's noon to 2, the Facebook page for Greenhouse Graphics. And I want to tell you guys how much I appreciate your time hanging out with me. I'm sorry I didn't get through a little bit more. My time was a little short today. But I will be back working with you guys on Thursday. So Thursday, I guess we're looking at like 2 to 3:30. Okay, so if you guys have any comments or anything, please throw them in the comments on here. And if you have any questions, you can put them in there.